Portland's premier pop culture event is back at the Oregon Convention Center. Rose City Comic Con is happening once again from September 11th through the 13th. And this year, they're getting Alan Tudyk, Patton Oswalt, Brian Michael Bendis, and so many more celebrities and comic creators to come hang out with us here in Portland. Plus, of course, all of the other amazing programming they do every year. Buy your passes today at rosecitycomiccon.com. That's rosecitycomiccon.com. Today on CityCast Portland, we're talking about why Portland area leaders are undoing a homeless shelter system they just, developed, plus the surprising and historic unanimous vote to expel a county sheriff. I'm your host, Claudia Meza, and with me are Oregonian homelessness and mental health reporter Lillian Mongeau Hughes and Willamette Week reporter and author Brianna Wheeler. Nice to have you both back on the show. How's it going, you guys?
Good morning.
Fabulous. Good morning.
I usually kick things off with an opening question, as you both know, so any new listeners can get to know our guests a little better. But on Thursdays, that part of the show is just for our CityCast Portland neighbors. Those are our paying members who help keep the show going. So if you want access to a full weeks of opening questions along with ad-free listening, merch, invites to member-only events, and more, head over to membership.citycast.fm for all the details. That's membership.citycast.fm/Portland. And today's opening question is all about the unfortunate passing of one of our country's most beloved entertainers and humanitarians, Dolly Parton, and the burlesque musical celebrating her life, playing right now at the Paris Theater in Portland's Pink District. Also, before we cut to our member-only content, I just wanted to let everyone know that the Secret Roller Disco is putting on a Dolly-themed skate session this Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Convention Center Plaza, and DJ Max Space will be spinning. There's also going to be food and a station to rent roller skates, which is really sweet. I just think that's like the sweetest thing to do right now. Okay, Lillian, you've been tracking the closing of our overnight shelter system, including some of the people affected by it all. Do you just want to start with what's been going on with the shelters?
Sure, yeah, and I should be clear, the terms can get fuzzy when we say overnight shelters. In the last year, we've been talking about overnight-only shelters, which were the ones built up by Mayor Wilson and his team specifically. The shelters that are closing now, some of them are those, about 300, but the other
300?
shelters that are...
Shelters or beds?
Beds.
Okay, because that's...
Sorry, there aren't 300 shelters, yes. Okay, excellent point.
Beds. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Let's rewind a second. The total system in January was about 3,400 beds.
Okay.
So that's where we started. At the beginning of this year, we had about 3,400 beds. Weirdly, more opened in April. And so when we get to the end of this year, we're going to have about 2,800 beds. And that will have been a total closure of 1,000 because some of them opened in April and the numbers are all over the place. But the thing you need to take home is about a third of the shelter system is closing. That includes overnight-only beds and 24-hour beds. And more of the beds that are closing are 24-hour beds than overnight-only beds.
And you're pointing this out at the end of the year because winter is usually when we need more beds, not less beds.
Yeah, I'm pointing it out because the way the closures are rolling out and the way some openings happened in the spring, it's like hard to keep track, right? To tell you right now how many beds are open, I would be hard pressed to do that. But at the end of the year, it'll be about 2,800. At the beginning of the year, it was about 3,400.
Gotcha.
And there were some others opened in there. So
I'm just pointing out a fun fact then. Okay, great.
Yeah. It is also true that more people need a dry place to sleep in the winter. I think one of the things that struck me about these closures, though, is that a lot of the ones that are closing, whether they're run by the city or the county, are ones that are 24-hour shelters. And 24-hour shelters mean that a person has a bed that is theirs. They have a storage system, in some cases, a door that locks, or they have like a storage closet or something. They have some way of keeping their stuff safe and leaving and doing whatever they need to do. Some people are working full-time jobs out of shelter, right? So it's like more like transitional housing in some cases. And they tend to have some level of wraparound services at the 24-hour shelter. So a housing coordinator and somebody who is connecting them to mental health care, if not providing it on site. So those shelters are like more sort of full service, if you will. And losing those is a real bummer.
Yeah. So I guess where does that leave us? Is anything coming up to replace these beds, or is this just the new fact of like where things are?
It's the new fact of where things are. I don't think that anything is coming to replace the beds directly. One thing to know about shelter is it is often thought of as like part of this like continuum of services, right? Like first you're homeless, then you go to shelter, then you get housing, then you're better. It doesn't work that way that often. In fact, the shelters here have done a pretty poor job of transitioning people to housing.
That's what I've heard.
In the 2025 fiscal year, only 16% of people staying in shelter exited to permanent housing. So that wasn't going great. So the thing that is going to be different, we are told by local leaders, is that they're going to try to do a better job balancing the amount of money they have for housing placement with the amount of money they have for shelter, and have a much higher percentage of people who go through shelter move on to housing, and have them do that more quickly. If that happens, then each bed would potentially be able to serve more people per year, right? Like one bed, if you will.
More turnaround service.
And all that. But, like one bed serves potentially 4 people instead of 1 person, and each of those people moves into permanent housing. Voila, the system is more effective and efficient, and you're doing better by the people who need it. So that's the goal, and we shall see if it happens.
Well, I am curious what you think. You know, Lillian, you've been looking at this problem for years now, different regimes. And so I'm curious where we're at now, like how you're feeling confident with their goal markers, where they're telling you these things, and do you believe them, or are you just like, you know, I'll believe it when I see it, or do you think there's anything on their side that...
I'm a journalist. I'll only believe anything when I see it.
I hear that.
That's just straight. But look, I mean, I'll have been in this job for 2 years in September. But
that's not that long.
No, it's not that long. But I have done a lot of, and especially for this story, a lot of like looking back, like what was going on. And I think that a lot of our current problem, and Portland has had homelessness forever, let's be clear. It did not happen after the pandemic. However, we all voted, 57% of regional voters voted in this big homeless services tax in 2020. And the tagline was, "End our homelessness crisis." That has not happened. The crisis has gotten worse. The reasons it hasn't happened, though, are a little bit complicated. And this goes to answering your question, Claudia, about whether I think they can do this next part. So one of the things that happened was the pandemic, right? Like changed the world order. But certainly it changed Portland, and it made housing and homelessness way worse, and way more people ended up on the actual street. At the same time, the county started handing out tents, so it became more visible, like literally because the tents are up off the ground and easier to see. Like that is one of the reasons people thought there was more homelessness, because now there's fewer tents, but more people living outside, and the general public view is starting to be, according to polls, that there's less homelessness, which is not true.
Interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, so that happened in 2021. And so pressure grew, like immense pressure grew very quickly on the city and the county to do something about this problem, because there are people on the street, and whether it was out of compassion or whether it was like these people shouldn't be here, often it was a mix of both. You've got to get them off the street now. So at the same time, the money that we voted for was technically supposed to go to housing. It wasn't ever supposed to cover shelter. Shelter is not written anywhere in the homeless services measure as something that's going to be paid for.
No, because our first strategy was housing first, which we know is usually the way that we solve homelessness.
Yes. The research shows that works. However, we've been calling what we're doing housing first and then not doing it very well. So now a lot of people are like, housing first doesn't work. And I'm like, well we're not really doing it, but we are calling it that. So it is understandably confusing.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was supposed to be for housing. So there was a political fight about whether it should stay for permanent supportive housing, which takes a while, or whether it should go to shelter to help solve the immediate problem. The moral argument for shelter for the number of people who are outside in 2021 was strong, right? And that is what they ended up doing. 100% more people have been housed during this whole time. I think it's like more than 10,000 people have gotten permanent supportive housing since this measure went into place. And another 21,000 have been kept in housing that they had with, rent assistance and stuff. But they also built a lot of shelter. And a third thing that happened is that it took a while to get that money out the door for a lot of different reasons.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Some will say incompetence. Others will say, like, well, hold on, we didn't have a system. So just sort of like suddenly tripling the amount of money we were putting into the system, like, didn't work. We had to build the system. In any case, as they built the system, the easiest, fastest thing to build was shelter, right? And then they also, as money backed up because they weren't spending it, they had this, like, it became one-time money, because it was like the money we didn't spend from 2021 is still in the bank account in 2023, and we've got to get rid of it. But once it's gone, we're not getting more of that money. Like, we'll get more of the ongoing money, but we're not going to get more of that money. A lot of that money also went to shelter. So all of this leads to 2026, when that, like, extra money, if you will, the backed up money is gone. So shelters are closing that were running on that money. And we're trying to get down to, like, the base level of, like, ongoing funding and like, rebalance the system.
Rebalancing essentially, like, what we can afford.
What we can afford.
Ongoing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. And then combined with that, they're trying to find this balance to get more people through shelter and into housing.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, let's hear about some of these more personal stories. The Montevilla Jazz Festival is happening this Labor Day weekend, September 4th through the 6th. And this year, there's 25 featured concerts throughout the Montevilla neighborhood and Mount Tabor Park. That's 3 days of top-notch, all-original jazz programming, world premieres, and a walkable neighborhood full of music, food, and discovery, including a special opening night at Alberta Rose Theatre, celebrating large ensemble composition, cross-disciplinary collaboration, and the creative voices of Portland artists. Featuring North Pole Studios Rhythm and Hughes, which pairs local musicians with autistic and developmentally disabled visual artists, and the debut of Rebecca Sanborn's Shadow Work. Get your pass today at montevillajazz.org. That's montevillajazz.org. I'd like to introduce you to Stacked Piercing, a new luxury piercing studio in Portland's Alberta Arts District. It's local and woman-owned, welcoming everybody exactly as they are. Stacked is calm and spa-like, so no chaotic vibes, no piercing guns, just expert care in a space built to put you completely at ease. A relaxed atmosphere for ages 8 and up. Custom curated ear and nose looks are their specialty, which are guided every step of the way, and the Stack method follows your natural anatomy for placement that lasts and supports your healing long after you leave. They have beautiful, high-quality jewelry for modern mood, Buddha jewelry, and Tawapa, with hundreds of designs meeting the standards of the Association of Professional Piercers, which I've heard in this world is a big deal, so you're walking out day one in your dream piece. And CityCast listeners can take 20% off their first booking at stackedpiercing.com. Just use the code CityCast20. It's for services only. Jewelry is not included. That's stackedpiercing.com. Okay, Lillian, so you kind of gave us a basic understanding of how we got here, why these shelters are closing. But you also started looking into, okay, well, who is like facing the brunt of all this? Do you want to tell us the people that you've met so far?
Sure. Our estimate is that about 800 people are going to be directly affected by the closures. Like, they were sleeping in a bed that's no longer going to be there. The providers, the people who run the shelters, work to get extra money to help make sure that they could, like, land those people well. So we are still waiting on final numbers. But, like, an initial snapshot shows that, like, a good chunk of people are moving into other shelters. Sort of like maybe a quarter-ish seem to be moving into, we don't know what, like an unknown destination. So that could be the street, but it could be that they went home to their parents and didn't tell anybody at the shelter. And then another smattering, there's definitely people that are getting moved into housing. There's been a bit of a push to move people right off the list. What we did is we reached out to every shelter that was closing and asked, does anyone want to talk to a reporter? We mostly got people who were landing fairly well. So I know that there's people out there who are going to be badly affected by this, and I didn't really talk to any of them in the end for this story. So that's kind of a miss. I'm hoping to find more of them. One guy I talked to, his name was Philip Pollard, and he is just turned 65. He was a chef in New York City. We were remembering together what it was like on 9/11. We were both there that day. He lived in Alaska and was a chef there. He one time went to Europe, and he was telling me in great detail about this piece of art he saw in the museum there. Anyway, really well-traveled guy. Things started to go badly for him about 10 years ago after a divorce. It just got worse and worse and worse. And long story short, he ended up in Portland sleeping on the street. He got a place in a shelter run by Transition Projects, which is our biggest shelter provider in the area. And it was like in a congregate shelter, so basically like a dorm style place. But they were able to help him get back on his feet. He's got his Social Security. He got into a subsidized apartment that he can afford on his Social Security income. And yeah, he's now living downtown in that apartment. So what he had to say to voters was like, look, I know that you're not sure what's happening, but it is helping me. Like, look at me. I'm the proof that your tax dollars are working. He said he couldn't have done it without that.
Seriously, we need to hear these stories.
Right.
Because right now, it just feels like it's a drain. Everything's just going down a drain, and we're never seeing anything getting better. So you're basically saying most of the stories that you were able to capture were people who were able to work the system to their favor.
Yeah, or the system worked in their favor. I don't know. Yeah. But Philip, who I just talked about, was one of the more sort of like, he had a fair amount of agency. There were two people I interviewed who are going to permanent supportive housing. To get into permanent supportive housing, you have to be doubly disabled and chronically homeless. So that means you've been homeless for more than, I want to say it's more than 2 years. It might be more than 3. And you have to have at least 2 noted disabilities. So the idea is people who are in permanent supportive housing generally like probably couldn't live independently. There's not a world where you like give them some job training and they're like paying their rent and everything's fine. Like these folks generally need a lot of extra help. So I interviewed 2 people like that who met those qualifications. One had just moved into permanent supportive housing and the other is in a shelter in the county that's kind of like, it's for people who are about to get keys, but they don't have them yet. But they're like on that list and they're close to the end. Both these people were women. They both had very traumatic past histories, right? Like one woman said she'd been on the street for the better part of 25 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, she was 55 and it hadn't been consecutive. She said she'd been off and on being homeless since she was 5. She'd had like multiple different parents. She was one of 21 children through like interconnected relationships. She herself had 8 children, many by different partners. She'd been living outside for a long time, so you can use your imagination there. It's been, she's had a really rough go. The other person was a domestic violence survivor and had like a chronic back problem. She used to have a job as a chemistry technician, like in a lab. And she had this back injury and a laceration to her spine, which means her hands shake and she couldn't do the job anymore. So she went from paying her own rent, earning her own money, all of that to nothing. So anyway, like those are another 2 stories where like they're not quite as, Philip said one of the things he wants to do with his very small income is buy an art membership. And I had tons of people write into me and be like, I want to pay for Philip's art membership. Yeah. These 2 women need more than an art museum membership. Yeah. They need more than any one person can like hand them. And so that's when you see like this permanent supportive housing system, though it is not perfect and though there's probably not enough of it, it really is an answer for people who otherwise really have nowhere else to go. Like there's not another path probably for those
But they're
folks.
Finding one through our system.
But they're finding I would say both of them have landed in a place where they're going to be as independent as they probably can be. And I think that's great for them. I don't want to demean what they have been through or their own power to change their lives, but the bar to get into permanent supportive housing is so high, if you will, like that, like it's people with the most need. Yeah.
Well, this is good to hear. I don't know how you're feeling about this, Brianna, but sometimes it's just we need these positive stories to subside us from the storm of like what is perceived incompetence. But what you're saying is just like we're coming up against something that we've never solved before,
Yeah. I'll just share one more story. A woman who grew up here, was a bartender for most of her life, got sick, could no longer afford her rent. And one thing led to another. She doesn't have housing. She's now qualifying for sort of like elderly assistance specifically and is going to be in a residential program for that. But there are so many older adults who've worked their whole lives and their Social Security income is not enough to pay rent in Portland. And they're from here. I mean, she grew up in town. She went to Arleta Elementary School.
Man. Well, thanks for your reporting, Lillian. We're going to, of course, keep hearing about these stories. And hopefully we'll hear more positive outcomes. Let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Brianna has a surprising story of how the Oregon State Sheriff's Association has voted to kick out one of their own. So, Brianna, this is kind of a big deal.
Oh my gosh, this is huge. So I'm bringing some reporting from Nigel Jaques over at Oregon Journalism Project. Oh my goodness. So Curry County Sheriff John Ward He's facing a criminal investigation and a complaint seeking to revoke his certification. And this is wild for, maybe it's not so wild. Maybe it's kind of par for the course, but let's get into it. Curry County, this is a county in southern Oregon, right on top of the California border. It's almost like a retirement county. It's got a very high median age, very conservative county. They've been voting in John Ward. I think he's been the sheriff for more than a decade, maybe something like 12 years. And as you both probably know, these sheriffs are voted in, right? They're not appointed. We vote them in. This man has been accused of lining his own pockets with all manner of public dollars, failing to supervise a deputy who went on to shoot 2 people in Gold Beach in separate incidents. This is a very small community. This is a very elderly community. A deputy shooting 2 people. If this happened in Portland, in Los Angeles, we would be talking about it for months and months and months. This just kind of flew under the radar. But those aren't all of the allegations. For 10 months, the sheriff defied a court order to share his agency's financial and administrative records with the Board of Commissioners. A just completed investigation this summer, around the end of July, found that this man has for years been abusing his power.
Well, what I heard why this is like crazy, because I'm not talking about, isn't it insane that a sheriff is seen
wild.
as no. What's insane is that the Association of Sheriffs voted him out, and it's only the second time they've done that in the history of their association. And that to me is like, wow, I was like, dang, like
it is very.
What do you have to do in order for your own people to be like, no, you can't be representing us. This is really bad. And I mean, we're hearing it, but like, what happens now?
Well, he still gets to be sheriff. He can still continue to lead his agency.
What?
He just doesn't get to be a member of the Sheriff's Association anymore, which does mean like he's cut off from those resources. I know. Relax your neck, because I know it just snapped the hell back hearing that. It's just like a very finger waggy. It's definitely a black mark, and it's probably going to, I mean, we can hope that it would hinder his chance for re-election if he decides to run again. He's run unopposed twice before. When all of this brouhaha started to bubble up and re-election came around, someone did run against him. He beat that fool too. Like, this community is so tight and old and conservative, and they're just going to rally behind him because he's the incumbent. And because it is such a small community, like, they all know each other. You know what I mean? Like,
how many people are actually voting?
Well, in the county, there's not even 7,000 people in this county, I think. Right? But it's an elderly county, so I would imagine they've got a pretty big voters block, you know? Yeah, it's the second oldest population of any Oregon county. Highest percentage of people born outside of the state. So it's very retirement. People are coming up and landing here. It's very close to, it's California weather with Oregon prices, I guess is kind of.
So what I'm hearing is like people who are just like, unless it's affecting my wallet or my livelihood, I don't care. That's what I'm hearing.
Very that.
Right? Because you don't have kids. You don't have, you're just like, whatever, I came here to die. Like,
oh my gosh.
You don't get in the way of that. We're fine.
That's dark.
But tea. Very dark, but very tea. Because, like, honestly, if you're, so you're up your 60s, lower 70s, and, like, you hear about the sheriff doing fraudulent boat inspections. You don't have a boat. Do you really care that much? The Marine State Board pays Ward's office $182,000 a year to patrol the Rogue River and inspect boats. But there's ample evidence that those deputies, they're not doing nothing of the sort, right? But then, again, another point is that he's got a canine department and the police dogs are uncertified.
It's just like a Cavalier King Charles and a wiener dog with aviators.
Just like Shih Tzus running around. Just shit. Shih Tzus shitting everywhere. I think the most egregious thing that came out of this was his failure to supervise one troubled deputy. And really all it takes is one. This Curry County Sheriff's deputy allegedly breaks into someone's house while he's wasted. Then he threatens to kill himself. Then he leaves the sheriff's office because, yes, of course he does. But then he joins the police department of Gold Beach City. Yeah. And that was allowed. And then what happens? He shoots an unarmed woman during a traffic stop. And then he shoots a developmentally disabled man.
Oh, God.
What happened to this man? Is he still out here with a gun and a badge?
Is he?
I want to. You can't be telling stories and not ending them. You can't be like, this maniac's out here. By the way, I don't know what happened to him. He could be right behind you.
Who's there?
Oh, Brianna. Okay, fine. We'll look it up later.
Is she checking?
Yeah, somehow that did not make it into my prep document, whether that fool is still on the police department or not.
The story is not about this terrible freaking police officer, possibly.
It is very much not. It is very much about this. I think the larger story is that he's been voted off of the board, and that does not happen. That this is and has been historically a gang that looks out for each other, right?
Yeah.
So they're always going to have each other's back. That they don't have his back right now, it really sends a very, very clear signal. We are not going to back you up. We are not going to provide your lawyers. We are not going to help you in any type of way as you battle your way through investigations with the Department of Justice, as you have conversations with feds up in your business. We want nothing to do with you. And that's really huge. That does not freaking happen. And that it's happening in this very conservative enclave also says something tremendous with like an older population. Now, hear me out. These communities with these older populations, they're very conservative. I really feel like we could be gathering up progressive communities, little cadres, and we could be going down there and just taking over their towns and like making them into the paradises that they should be, right?
Is that what you think?
For Brianna Wheeler, for sheriff of Curry County.
You know what? Right? Have fun, Brianna. Going down to Southern. You should have seen Lillian's face when you said that. She was just like, the fuck? Like, she literally went, the fuck? Real quick, this police officer you were talking about, I forget his first name, but his last name was Moore. He was hired as a Gold Beach police officer, as you mentioned. He was cleared of wrongdoing in both shootings.
That's right. Yeah.
The first is the subject of a pending federal civil rights lawsuit. Moore did not respond to any questions. Jordan White, the Gold Beach police officer who hired Moore, said he spoke to Ward before making that decision, and that Ward, this is the sheriff who, we were just talking about, did not mention any issues with Moore.
Fully co-signed him.
It sounds like Moore is still a cop.
Yeah.
He's still out there. Cool, guys.
What I'm getting, Claudia, is that you know the answers to all the questions you ask us. So now I'm afraid of getting them wrong next time I'm on the show.
No, Julia does, our producer. If you also had a producer who had your back,
then I would know all the answers.
You would know all the answers. You would be like, I know who Dolly Parton is.
That's right. If only a producer had given me a little prep sheet, I would know. Yeah, I haven't heard of her.
Look, we're not denying that you haven't heard of her. That's not what we're denying. Okay. Well, Brianna, thank you. I was like flying a little too high with Lillian's, hey, stuff is working story. So thank you for bringing me back down.
Oh, my pleasure.
What you got out of my story is stuff is working. I'm not sure if you were listening.
Lillian,
hard.
Listen.
Things work occasionally for individual people.
That's what I'm hearing. And that's all I needed to hear.
That part's true. That part's 100% true.
Because like what a lot of us hear is nothing is working.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right. That's not true.
Well, shit's working in Southern Oregon for some people.
Oh, it's true. Shit's working for a very specific section of people. The thing that I'm taking away from Brianna's story is that even after all your homies are like, oh yeah, he's terrible, you can still have a job.
You can still have a job.
Yes. I mean, ain't that the truth?
And they're not snatching away the stuff that he bought a shed with money that was donated to the police department. He bought a travel trailer with money that was donated to the police department. He's still got those things. He's going to keep them. Watch.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. That is our show for today. So thank you both for hanging out with me. I hope that you come back. Lillian, tell us more stuff. I want to hear good stuff. We should have a show that's just all good news. I know, Lillian, that you're like, it wasn't all good news, girl. But like, just things that are working.
Yeah, I could share some
I want
good
things
news
that are working. I think we should have like, hey, here we go.
Yes.
And also, listeners, you can't see this, but both Lillian and Brianna got new hair today. I mean, I don't know if it was today, but like...
No, it wasn't. It was for the show.
They came in. They both have new do's. They look so good, and they're both killing it right now.
Well, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you so much, you guys.
You're welcome.
That's
I was going to say something else and no.
Sorry. All right, here we go.
I was Sorry.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate it, leave us a review. I don't know, reach out to Lillian. Tell her about pop culture. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Portland neighbor. Just visit membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.